Yeah, so I finally decided to tackle this problem. This oil leak, it's an oil pan gasket, and it seems like it was also leaking from the um, one of the axle on the passenger side. This is a BMW X5 E70. I guess a lot of BMW's owners have this problem of an oil leak, and it's not an easy job because you have to remove the subframe, you have to remove some of the suspension parts, all the suspension parts from the subframe, and it's if without a lift it is very difficult because the space is tight under there if you have to use a creeper, which you definitely would recommend having a creeper. I'm just gonna give you guys a quick rundown of some of the things then that I had to have. I have a floor jack because that is what I use as a second hand to help me to bring down the subframe because it's heavy. So you have to have something to bring it down. I also modified one of those load carts, and what that did was help me to balance the subframe while holding it up from the jack, both taking it down and putting it up back.
So what I did, I used two straps. They were like 1,000-pound strength each, so that's 2,000 pounds. I used both of them, and I swung the engine from the crankshaft pulley at the front, and then I also supported the engine from the back where it's bolted to the transmission. So I put a jack under the transmission.
The next thing is to be able to raise the car off the ground, maybe like 2 feet. And the reason why I didn't go more than 2 feet is because I needed my jack to be able to go as high as where the subframe was, so it can easily take its time and bring it down. And also when I'm putting it up back, I'm gonna need it to take the subframe all the way up to where I can bolt it back on the chassis of the car. A power tool would be good in terms of like a impact wrench, because it would be very hard for you to be undoing those subframe bolts, which are some 21mm bolts, and they're very hard to come out if they haven't been pulled in a time. So an impact wrench, a very good impact wrench, would make that job way easier, because you're gonna have limited space, and to be moving around a breaker bar under there is not gonna be easy. Also, it would be good for you to have a creeper to get in and out, because you'll be going underneath that car quite a few times. You'll be sliding in and out, and you have to position yourself like for the rear bolts and all of those things. And also you need a torque wrench, because you have to put the correct torque spec on the bolts for the oil pan, and there's a whole lot of bolts. So and also it would be good if you have a small impact gun, not the heavy duty one, just to run the bolts in, because when you're under there holding up the pan, you would like to run some bolts in to hold it up. So those are some of the things that I think are very important to have. One of the next things that's important is when you're taking off the front axle, you're gonna need, for the passenger side, it would be best you remove the entire spindle from the entire spindle with the hub and everything from the upper control arm, because the passenger side axle is very long and it won't be able to come out if you don't remove the entire spindle, or if you don't remove the axle from the hub. The axle from the hub can be very tricky. Even if you get the nut off, sometimes it won't come out of the hub because it's seasoned there, been in there for maybe 5, 6, 10 years, depends on how old the car is. And so I would recommend the best thing to do is just to remove the spindle completely from the car. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys step by step. It's not gonna be everything, but step by step how I go about doing it.
So this is how I strap the belt underneath. It has a groove, so that groove is gonna keep this thing in place. It's not gonna move. So that is how I strap that thing in. And as I said, there's a lot of pressure on it right now, I make sure I get it all firm. So the next thing is I'm gonna remove all the front suspension from the subframe. This is a subframe right here. This entire thing all the way back, and this entire thing all the way across. That's the subframe. So for me to get to the aisle, the aisle pan, which is this, I'm gonna have to remove all of this out the way. This is the engine mount, so I'm gonna release it from top. So once I remove the engine mount, the engine will be hanging by those straps over there around here. I'm gonna have to remove the driving shaft, which is this. I'm gonna remove that. This is the front differential. This is also have to be removed. So I'm gonna take these covers off. I already did it on that side. So what I did, once I removed the covers, I get a Ziploc bag and I put the clips in it so I don't have those things missing. So, and I label it, one for the left, one for the right. I have everything in place. Then as I said, I'm gonna remove all of these suspension, these, so I can pull the axle out, and because I'm gonna need to pull the axle out. The next thing, I'm gonna need to drain the fluid from this. I'm gonna need to drain the fluid from this, and I'm gonna need to drain the engine oil also. So now I remove most of the front end, the suspension parts for the passenger side. The only thing that's holding up the spindle now is this upper control arm. It's separated from the strut. The lower control arm, both of them are all, the front and the lower control arm are all disconnected. And on both the rack and pinion, as you can see, now it's not moving. I'm gonna tie strap the rack and pinion up so it doesn't come down with the subframe. I don't want to have to be leaking all the power steering fluid out and all of that. It's a little tricky to get the rack and pinion bolts out. They came from here, these two, but then they keep turning up here, so you have to fight your way and get a spanner over here. I think it's 16, and over here there's another one was right here, so you have to get rid of these two nuts that's on the top side, the nut and the bolt, but the nut is welded on to the frame, to the subframe, so you can't screw it from underneath. You have to take it out from top, and there's no space. You'd have to take out the fan off the radiator to get to that one. So I think I'm gonna try to lower, when I start lowering the suspension, the subframe, when I start lowering the subframe, I'm gonna take it down a little and see if I can access it up top a couple of inches, see if I can access it from top, 10mm wrench, and try to access this from the top. So when I'm taking it down, I just want to make sure I remember to take it down just a little, and then try to. There are a few other bolts like here. There's a 10 bolt right here. There's one over there that's on the subframe. You just have to go around and look and see what is connected to the subframe. So now I have the suspension moved from the subframe. As you can see, subframe here. All those parts of the suspension are already removed. Now I'm draining the fuel. I'm draining the oil from the engine. Yeah, so that's the engine mount, and that's the bolt for the engine mount up there. That's on the passenger side, and on the driver's side it's a little bit harder to see. On the driver's side is a little bit harder to see, but you can see down there, that's it right there. I think that looks like a 16. Yeah, so I'm gonna put a long extension with a swivel head and a 16, so that way I can reach all the way down there. I use this long 20-inch silver head with an 18mm socket and my impact wrench. This is what I use to loosen the nut from the engine mount. So the engine mount is now loose, but it's still bolted to the subframe, but it's now loose. So now these are the subframe bolts. You have 6 of them. You have one right there, one right here, and one right there. So you have 6 of these bolts, 3 on each side, 3 over here, and 3 on this side. They're in the same location on both sides. So once you find them on this side, it's easy for you to find them on the other side. So now I'm gonna try to use my impact wrench. That's a 21mm bolt. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to crack it with that, but if not, I just use my breaker bar to crack it first, and then once I get them loose, I'm not gonna take them out. I'm just gonna come back and put my jack underneath the subframe, and then I'll go around and take them out one by one. That's the second one out. That's the third one out. Yeah, the subframe is now fully resting on the jack. I'm going to take my time to lower it just a couple of inches, and then try and see if I can get that bolt out for the transmission oil cooler at the front. So I'm gonna bring it down slowly, just a little. Now as you can see, I took it down just a little bit, and I know I can get to the bolts from the top a couple of inches. So I'm just a 10mm wrench and get to this bolt now before I bring the subframe down anymore. Now I come back up here and I check just to make sure everything is holding tight up here. As you can see, everything is firm. There's a lot of pressure on this belt, as you can see. So far so good. And I also make sure I have a jack right at the transmission right there. I put a bottle drop there to keep it up, so that's also helping with some of the weight. So the bolts out. Honestly, I thought it was like one bolt there, but when I double check, I realized there's 2 bolts. There's 2 on each side, and if you can see, you see one here, one over the corner there. So it's a good thing I do it like this. So when it came down, I checked and saw that there was 2 bolts that's holding it up. So now that I come and check, I saw that there is another bracket that's bolted onto the subframe. Yeah, so the first subframe now is coming down. I'm going to continue. Take it down, it's almost on the ground. I got the subframe down and the engine. Now I have the subframe down and the engine is still holding up. As you can see, this is how I did strap the engine to hold it in place. This is the rack and pinion right here. I did not disconnect the rack and pinion from the steering column. I actually just have it swinging. I'm going to tie strap it up. Yeah, so now that everything is the subframe is now out, you can see everything underneath here now, so we can see all the things that we need to remove. As you can see, that's how I use the jack to hold the transmission up. I didn't want to put it any closer because I had to put it where I could get the subframe down without messing around with the jack, so I couldn't put it any closer over the side of the engine. Yeah, so next thing I'm gonna do is get the front differential down. I'm gonna have to drain the fluid from it. This is the drain plug. This is the refill plug up here. I'm gonna make sure I crack this one first, then I drain this one just to make sure once I drain it I'm able to put fluid back in it. This is a breather hose for the breather hose up there. You can see it right there. That's a breather hose for the differential that is gonna be removed also. Now these lines are all bolted to the side of the oil pan of the engine, so I'm gonna remove these. This one and this one, I have to get them off, and then once I get those off, then I can remove the drive shaft coming from the transfer casing, and then I remove the axle. So this is the refill plug from this the driver side. You notice I can see everything now clear. Now that the subframe is not there, it's easy for me to just crack that nut and move that plug, and then I'm gonna refill this thing before I put the subframe back up, because a lot of things you need to do before you put the subframe back up. That is a 14, so I'm just gonna use a 14 and pull that thing and get it up. Yeah, so now I'm gonna try to get the axle out. See, and now I have the entire thing out.
From the streets of Jamaica, coming live and direct. Go to the beat, no mic check. Stepping on the beat.
That I have the differential off, the axle is now detached. Now I can see all the bolts for the oil pan. I'm gonna try to get the harder ones out first. Yes, so now I have the oil pan down. I'm gonna inspect around the back to make sure that there's no there's not a leak from the back seal. So I'm gonna wipe it off and I'm gonna inspect that area around here good. For what I can see, it doesn't seem like the back seal is leaking because I don't see any oil and the flex plate are in that section of the bell housing. So I think that so far it's looking pretty okay. You can see that this thing was leaking a lot on this side. The engine is always tilt in the to the passenger side, which is the right side, so it's most likely gonna leak on this side. You can see everything over here is soaking wet. The axle bracket, the front axle bracket, which is this, is also soaking wet, so everything would come down on this. I probably gonna pull this, and there's a seal inside. I ordered that seal. I'm probably gonna change that seal also. I'll make sure that seal, I get that seal first. Now, so as you can see, once I remove the bracket for the passenger side axle, you can see that this seal was leaking on the inside. So some of the oil that I was seeing running down here was not actually from the oil pan, but not from the engine, but it was actually from the differential oil. So it was leaking oil all along. It probably was very low on oil, because there was not a lot of oil that came out of it when I tried to drain the oil. So I definitely have to change this seal, and I have to change this seal. Yeah. So I have everything all cleaned up. This is my new seal. This is the oil pan. As you can see, I removed the axle support bracket for the left side. For the right passenger side, I took the old seal out. I also removed the seal that was here, and these are the new seals that I bought at the dealer. They were like only $8, and you're not gonna go in here and don't change these seals. So this part goes in here, and the new seal, there's a groove right here for the new seal to go. As you can see, I cleaned the surface. I just use a scraper and scrape all whatever was on it, and then I use a 400 grit sandpaper. You can use a finer sandpaper, even up to 1500, but this is very smooth right now. Surface is smooth. I also removed the sensor for the oil level. This seal needs to be changed. I think it was my axle seal. There are genuine parts. This axle seal for this part of the axle, and the other one is for the differential. So I have two of them, those two. So I'm using a scraper to scrape the anything that's on the, just level the surface, and then I'm gonna use a fine sandpaper to just sand it down. Did not get any of these side bolts in the kit, so I'm gonna have to use these back. These are much taller than the ones that came in there. I think these are a different material. These are aluminum. These are like some cast iron or something. They're kind of from the aluminum, but these are way heavier. So I think these are different materials. So I'm gonna have to use these back. have the subframe and the jack. I'm putting it back up. This is where the subframe goes up. As you can see, it's all lined up right there. I tried to catch some of the bolts that I can catch from down here. As you can see, one of the bolts over there, I catch that one already for the power steering fluid for the line. I'm gonna have to catch this bolt and that bolt over this side. I have to catch it before it goes all the way up, but it needs to go up some more so I can have it level. When I come around this side, I already have one of the bolts for the rack and pinion is already in place. That nut, you have to hold that nut from the top. So I'm gonna bring this thing up a little more. I also catch this bolt right here. I also catch this bolt right here for this bracket for the power steering line, again for the rack and pinion. The bolts are now in place for the transmission oil cooler. This was to make sure that the engine mounts are all lined up, and you can see that one is all lined up, and this one over here you probably can't see, but it's all lined up. The bolt is coming through. I just have to go and catch the nut on top. So now that I have the subframe all bolted up, I can now go ahead and look for the other stuff that I need to bolt, like the rack and pinion. Yeah, so now that I have the engine all up and the subframe up, then all I have to do now is just continue what I did before. Put back the subframe, the suspension to the subframe, change the sway bar link. I have some new ones, yep, and refill my differential with oil, and just bolt back these things up, my rack and pinion and all the other straps. Yeah, so now I can go and release the engine. I can go and get the thing off, because the engine is now held up by the subframe. So now I can go up there and remove that thing. So once I do all of that, you know, I'll be just putting back the covers on when I'm finished. So this is how I did the subframe. It's a lot of work, but I did it by myself with no lift, and it wasn't that bad. So now I have the engine running. There's no leak. Looking all the way around, I'm not seeing any leaks so far. Everything is looking nice and dry, so I hope it stays that way.